Thank you for making time for us on the Trading Bell today. As always, I'm Malika Kazia, and we've got an important discussion for you. We've got somebody who is going to be telling us more about the ICT sector in the country, actually the best person to tell us, and that is Cabinet Secretary for ICT, Joe Mucheru. We're going to get into the details of exactly what's happening in the digital space in Kenya, as well as some, tidbits here and there about the latest national budget and its allocation to this particular docket. But first, do take a look at his profile. Mr. Joe Mucheru was appointed Cabinet Secretary by His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2015. He was formerly the Google Sub-Saharan Africa Ambassador as well as Google Country Manager Kenya, based in Nairobi. He joined Google in June 2007, where he led the delivery of strategy, business planning and operations. Before joining Google, he worked at Wananchi Online, a company he co-founded in 1999. He held various roles at the company, including strategy and business director and CEO. He studied at London's City University and also attended Stanford University's executive program in 2008. So thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you.
All right, so, as we jump into this conversation, we, of course, saw very recently the national budget for the country coming out for 2020-2021. And in it, many Kenyans, of course, were paying attention to the taxation. And one of the important measures that we saw being commented on was that the online transactions will now attract a 1.5% digital tax as we continue to, rope in that e-commerce sector in the country. Tell us a little bit more about this.
So first, maybe I set some context. ICT is a big part of the country. We've seen significant growth in investment, significant growth in the usage of ICT. Even during this pandemic period, ICT growth and usage has significantly increased. So introduction of this tax means that then, this sector is also growing up and beginning to contribute, like other sectors have been contributing, to ensure that we continue to see the infrastructure being built. Right now, the needs of the country, whether it is on production of food, delivery, logistics, all these require money. And so as companies in the sector come in, then they should be able to contribute also. So I think for me, one thing is that it shows growth in the sector, that actually the National Treasury is looking at taxing some of that. But at the same time, not all the companies are under the bracket that this tax comes in. There's certain thresholds that must be met. And as we speak right now, there's public consultation that's going on how the regulations are going to be implemented. Okay. For example, if you go online and you're buying a TV, the online platform takes a commission from the sale of the TV. So they're not expected to be paying taxes on the whole TV, because actually whoever is selling the TV is also paying taxes. They're paying on their amount if it has met a specific threshold. So all that is being discussed, and the final regulations will be in place. This was just announced. So I think for the sector, it's not a significant amount unless, people should actually look at the detail. The detail is actually where all the data is. And for many businesses, actually, this is going to help us grow versus what some people are trying to say, that this is punitive. Actually, I think it's going to help us.
So what would you say to the worried Kenyan who's like, I have an online business, I sell maybe clothes via a social media platform, things like that. How will this touch them?
You see, the person at a kiosk pays tax. Why shouldn't somebody who's online also pay tax? The more we contribute to the taxation, the more budget will get allocated, because then, the National Treasury is also able to see what role we are actually playing in the ICT sector. But they should not worry. I think let them look at the specifics as to whether they themselves actually fall into the category, and more so, can they contribute to the regulations that are currently being discussed and undergoing public participation. And that will actually help even KRA in determining how the taxation will be done.
So we've seen, of course, given the COVID-19 period, a lot of job losses in the millions even. And a lot of people then are saying that, okay, as a fallback, you know, what can we do? We can get into entrepreneurship, and the digital space becomes very much more attractive at that point as well. So how are we perhaps enabling that environment for such businesses, such entrepreneurs to thrive, especially given the period we're in?
So there are several things that we've been working on. First of all, in everything the president has talked about, it's about health and livelihoods. Just ensuring that we're protecting lives as well as ensuring that we're seeing growth. So you're right, the technology side is actually been growing, and it's created a lot of opportunities where you can go online, purchase something, and it doesn't have, you know, the contact. So social distancing is there by default.
Yes.
With ICT. I gazetted a COVID-19 advisory committee, and that committee so far has reviewed over 400 different applications and innovations that Kenyans have brought forward. We're looking at supporting those so that we can be able to create jobs as well as safeguard jobs. That is in line with you know, one of our projects, which is the whitebox.go.ke, where people also are bringing many of their different innovations that we could work with them to see how to scale. But when you look at overall, there are companies that are really doing well in the logistics space, delivering, whether it is food, whether it is goods to homes.
Yeah.
They have seen an expansion and growth. The demand has significantly grown. We have seen platforms that were waning now are doing actually quite well because the demands for these products online are actually increasing. From a logistics point of view, we are seeing that across the country and actually even regionally, you know, governments have ensured that there is still a good flow of goods throughout, and therefore we are seeing the growth in terms of the technology space. Companies being able to now take products from one area to another, and people are able to actually transact better. I'll add that digital work is also one of the areas we've seen growth. We've seen young people, you know, being taken even into hotels which are booked. There's proper social distancing, so they continue to work on digital platforms that are overseas. So we are exporting some of the skills, and that actually continues to grow. Recently, we launched a film hub at Dedan Kimathi University, and the companies that were there that are taking advantage of some of this infrastructure, they are producing advertisements, they're producing you know, small videos and shows and films for overseas companies, and they're getting paid in hard currency. They are involved in gaming, they're involved in doing some documentaries. So there's a lot of different areas, the creative sector as well as digital work. We have a partnership with the Mastercard Foundation. They are assisting us in providing training. So we have trainers now. We're going to have over 100 trainers that will be available to young people in Kenya shortly, who will actually train them on how they can go online and actually start earning.
Okay.
This is combined with what we're calling Ajira innovation hubs across the country. Those, again, we have center managers, and people can be able to interact with them. Right now, the interactions are digital. They are not physical, but they will get training. So the trainers we've put in have, you know, years of experience in earning online, and we hope that they'll be able to sambaza that to everybody else.
Okay, so even as we talk about entrepreneurs, a lot of business functions have also been digitized because of the situation and physical distancing, like you said, reduction of congestion in the offices and all that. Yes. There's that question of cybersecurity that comes in there, because as much as, you know, you've made sure that functions are able to operate from outside the office, it does provide some sort of opportunity for those who are maybe trying to take advantage of that, for instance, in terms of security. Right. So what kind of infrastructural development have we seen in that area to be able to curtail any kind of threats online for businesses?
So there are several. One, the policy, the regulations and the laws are now in place, both for data protection, ensuring that even though company data espionage is actually, the data is well protected, and especially for personally identifiable information in terms of security. We are in the final stages of hiring a data commissioner who will actually now implement. We have the computer and cybercrime law that is now fully functional. Someone had taken us to court to try and stop its operationalization. The courts have ruled that it is legitimate, and we can go ahead and implement. So we have the tools that are there that are necessary first to catch people who are trying to break laws and really use the technology space that we've put in place in negative ways. We at the same time have, through the Communications Authority, what we call the public key infrastructure. So that infrastructure is in place. And what that means is that everybody can be able to get a certificate. That certificate can then be used to authenticate whether it is you online or not. It's the same signature that you can actually be able to use.
Okay.
And so even in the digitization processes we're using with the Ministry of Lands and even the judiciary, our aim is to ensure now with the PKI or the digital certificate, you can identify who's where. We've been working with the various platforms to ensure that the way for instance, video conferencing applications are being used, you can tell who's logging in, where they're logging in from. You can manage and control that from the businesses. At the same time, we are also working on educating and training people through the Computer Incidents and Cybercrime Unit that we have at the Communications Authority. We provide as much information when we see a lot of these threats.
Okay.
For example, right now there is a game or a pyramid scheme, Crowd One, where people are being asked to pay, like 99 euros. And it's clear, alerting people that these kind of things are there. There are scams that are being used digitally, when people are trying to look for work, and that they should be dealt with. So we have a team that is working on that.